Oliver Twist. Oliver walks to London. On the way, he meets Jack Dawkins, or the artful Dodger, who takes him along. Oliver, groping his way with one hand and having the other firmly grasped by his companion, ascended with much difficulty and the dark and broken stairs, which his conductor mounted with an ease and expedition that showed he was well acquainted with them. He threw open the door of the back room and drew Oliver in after him. Okay, so at the beginning of the prose, which characters are we are involved? First of all, how many characters are there in this particular paragraph which we had learned? Number one, Oliver. Okay, while walking, he meets on his way. He meets whom?
Jack Dawkins, who is the artful dodger.
Very good. Jack Dawkins was also the artful dodger. Okay. Now after that, Oliver grouping his way on one hand. Okay, and having the other firmly grasped his companion. Okay. Now who was the companion? The one whom he met. Okay, with ascended with much difficulty. Now they are describing, okay, the beginning of the prose. Okay, they where they are walking, they're walking in the dark broken stairs, okay, which is conductor mounted with an ease and expedition that showed he was acquainted with them. And then what did he do? He threw open the door of a back room. Okay, he opened the door of the back room and drew Oliver in after him. Okay, so he brought Oliver also. The companions met each other and then they entered the back room. All right. Anybody else who would like to read? Bhavya, can you read next paragraph?
The walls and ceiling of the room were perfectly black with age and dirt. There was a deal table before the fire, upon which were a candle stuck in a ginger beer bottle, 2 or 3 pewter pots, a loaf and butter, and a plate. In a frying pan which was on the fire and which was secured to the mantel shelf by a string, some sausages were cooking, and standing over them, with a toasting fork in his hand, was very old shriveled Jew, whose villainous looking and repulsive face was obscured by a quantity of matted red hair. He was dressed in a greasy flannel gown with his throat bare and seemed to be dividing his attention between the frying pan and a clothes horse, over which a great number of silk handkerchiefs were hanging. Several rough beds made of old sacks were
we're hanging. We'll stop here. Okay, so now in this paragraph, if you will see, the room which they have entered, the description of the room is being given in this particular paragraph, right? How is the room described? First they describe the walls and the ceilings of the room, where they say they were perfectly black with age and dirt. Okay, so you can imagine how the room is looking. Okay, next is, there was a deal table before the fire. So there was a fire, and before the fire there was a table, and then they described what all stuffs were there on the table. First of all, a candle was there. What else, children? What else?
It was stuck in a ginger beer bottle.
Yes, which was stuck in a ginger beer bottle. Next,
There were 2 to 3 pewter pots.
pots. Okay, there were 2 to 3 pewter pots. Okay, and what else?
A loaf
a
and
loaf and
butter
butter and a
and a
plate.
plate.
And loaf, butter, a plate, and
There
in
was
the
a
In a
frying pan.
frying pan
pan
which
which
was on
was
the
on fire,
fire.
which was secured to the mantel shelf by a string.
Huh.
Some
So,
sausages were
uh,
cooking on it.
yes, so there was a fire, as we said. On the fire, there was a frying pan, and in the frying pan, there were some sausages which were, which they were cooking. Fine. And standing over them and toasting frog in his hand was a very old shriveled Jew. So shrivel over here means to become smaller, especially because of dry conditions. Okay. Fine. Now, who's villainous looking and repulsive? So there was one person also over there who was cooking in the fry pan.
Yes.
He was
Jew.
standing and cooking. And how did he describe that person as?
He
He
was
was a
very
Jew.
old, shriveled, who's
Jew.
villainous
Okay,
looking
Jews.
and
I hope
repulsive
you know who
face.
are Jews. Yeah.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
now, after description, giving the description about the room, about the table, about the person who is cooking, he now gives more detail about the person who was standing there. Now, first, number one, whose villainous looking and repulsive face was obscured by the quantity of matted red hair. He was dressed. Now, see, now you have the description about the person. Okay, first of all, how was his face, children? How was his face?
It
He
was
had a
villainous
villainous looking and
looking
a
and
repulsive face.
repulsive.
Repulsive. Yeah, villainous. Villain. It comes from villain. And repulsive. I hope you know the meaning of repulsive, everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So he was had, and how was his hair?
Red hair,
It
red colored hair.
Matted red hair.
red hair. Okay. Now let's see how he was dressed. He was dressed in a greasy flannel gown with his throat bare, and seemed to be dividing his attention between the frying pan and the clothes horse, over which a great number of silk handkerchiefs were hanging. Okay, so what was he doing? How was his dress? First, let us describe that. How was his
He
dress?
he dressed as a
In
greasy
a
flannel
greasy
In
gown.
flannel
a
gown.
greasy flannel gown. Okay, and on one hand, see, he was his attention was divided into two different things. On one hand, he was looking at the frying pan where he was cooking, and on the other hand, the
A clothes horse.
clothes horse. Okay, and what else was there? There were lots of silk
Yes.
handkerchiefs
Chiefs
which were
were
hanging
hanging.
around. Okay, clear till here, everyone?
Excuse
Yes,
me,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, Peter.
Ma'am, what's the meaning of flannel?
What?
Flannel.
Flannel. It
Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
flannel gown. Okay, you know gowns are there. Do you know gowns? Have you seen gowns?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is one type of a gown. It is a kind like which is typically made of wool or cotton, and it is slightly milled up and raised. So it is just a pattern they are describing. Okay, flannel is just usually a kind of a soft fabric. All right. 1 minute. It is a soft fabric and it is typically made up of wool or cotton cloth. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Shall I go further? Shall I proceed further?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Bhavya, can you read loudly?
Several rough beds made of old sacks were huddled side by side on the floor.
Hmm?
Seated round the table were 4 or 5 boys, none older than the Dodger, talking and sipping tea with the air of middle-aged men. These all crowded about their associate as he whispered a few words to the Jew, and turned round and grinned at Oliver. So did the Jew himself, toasting fork in hand. This
Okay.
is
So now, 1 minute, 1 minute. So now we'll see what happens further. Several rough beds made of old sacks were huddled side by side on the floors. Huddled over here means, have you seen, you put this all your clothes in one particular cloth and you tie the knot to it. It's a kind of a gadli or something.
Yes,
Have
yes.
you seen that? Or are you aware
yes,
Yes,
about that?
ma'am.
Acha, guttery. Okay. So all the old, bed was very rough, and all the clothes were just tied, huddled side by side, and it was kept on the floor. Seated around the table were 4 or 5 boys. So you remember we had seen that he gave the description of the table and what all things were there. Okay, on the table.
Yes.
So who was sitting around the table?
Four to
Four
five
or five
boys
boys, none
Four
older
to
and
than
a
five
the
boys.
Dodger.
middle-aged woman.
Yes, none older than Dodger. Okay, so no, all these boys, no, among these boys, no one was as old as Dodger. Okay, talking and sipping tea with the air of middle-aged man. So he was talking and he was having his tea, and he belonged to which age? Almost the middle-aged man. All right. These all crowded about their associate as he whispered a few words to the Jew and then turned round and grinned at Oliver. Okay, so what did he do? So can you see how they gave the description of everything, what was going on? Can you just at least imagine?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Now what happens after that? Can who whispered to the Jew?
Jack Dawkins of the Dodger.
Yes, he whispered to the Jew. Okay, and then turned around and grinned at Oliver. Grinned over here means to give a broad smile. You can write down the meanings also with pencil. Okay, grinned over here means broad smile. Clear?
Yes.
So did the Jew himself, toasting frog in hand. So he smiled, and in reply, even the Jew, toasted the fork in his hand. So even he replied, right? Now let's see what happens further. Yes, Bhavya?
This is him, faggot, said Jack Dawkins. My friend Oliver Twist. The Jew grinned
Louder,
and
please.
making a low obeisance to Oliver, took him by the hand and hoped he should have the honor of his intimate acquaintance.
Mm-hmm.
Upon this, the young gentleman with the pipes came round him and shook both his hands very hard, especially the one in which he held his little bundle. One young
Okay.
gentle
Mm-hmm. Read.
One young gentleman was very anxious to hang up his cap for him, and another was so obliging as to put his hand in his pockets in order that, as he was very tired, he might not have the trouble of emptying them himself when he went to the bed.
Okay.
These
1 minute. Just a minute. Huh? So the Jew grinned and making a low obeisance to Oliver. So the word obeisance here means what? Respecting. See, he smiled, they smiled, and now he got up and he respected to gave a respect to Oliver, right? As you know, if somebody comes at our place, we definitely get up or we leave the stuff whatever we are doing and we welcome them, right? So that is what the Jew did. Okay, took him by hand and hoped he should have the honor of his intimate acquaintance. Okay, so made sure that he is comfortable since he's come into their room, right? Now, upon this, the young gentleman with the pieces came round him and shook both his hands very hard, especially the one which he held his little bundle. Okay, so now what happens after this? The young gentleman, after greeting him, after getting him inside, after making him feel comfortable, what did he do? They shake the hands, and especially the hard with one hand, in which he was holding his bundle. Okay, clear till here, everyone?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
one young gentleman was very anxious to hang up his cap for him, and another was so obliging as to put his hands in his pockets. Okay, so among the people who just came, one person was excited for what, anxious for what, children?
For hanging his cap.
Very good, to hang his cap, right? And the other person, he was obliging for what? He was curious for what?
To put his hand in his pocket.
Yes, to put his hand in his pocket. In order that he was very tired, he might not have the trouble of emptying them himself when he went to the bed. These civilities would probably have been extended much farther, but for a liberal exercise of the Jews, toasting fork on the heads and shoulders of the affectionate youths who offered them. Right, so it is just like they are just giving you a description about how these civilians met and how they welcomed them, how they had held at their hand, how they offered them, right? What all things they offered them when they entered the room. Clear?
Yes,
Clear,
ma'am.
everyone? So
Yes,
the
ma'am.
story till here, what we have studied is they enter the room, they give the description of the room. After that, they give the description of the people who are there in the room, and then they gave us the description about how they went and met them. What was the response of the people who were already there in the room? How did they respected them? How did they? What things did they offer them? Right, as we also do when somebody comes to our house, right, as guests, right? So we also make sure that they are comfortable. So have you understood the story till here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now let's see what happens further. Yes, Pradyumna, will you read?
Yes, ma'am. We are very glad to see you, Oliver. Very,
Hmm.
said the Jew.
Hmm.
Dodger, take off the sausages and draw a tub near the fire for Oliver.
Hmm.
Ah, you are staring at the pocket handkerchiefs.
Hmm.
Oh, my dear, there are a good many of them, ain't there? We
Hmm.
just looked them out. Ready for the wash? That's all. Oliver, that's all. Ha
Hmm.
ha ha ha.
Hmm.
The latter part of this speech was held by a boy. What is that?
Posterius.
Boisterous shout from all the hopeful pupils of the merry old gentleman, in
Hmm.
the midst of which they went to supper. Oliver ate his share, and the Jew then mixed him a glass of cocoa and a hot water, telling him he must drink it off directly,
Hmm.
because another gentleman wanted the tumbler.
Hmm.
Oliver did as he was desired. Immediately afterwards, he felt himself gently lifted onto one of the sacks, and then he sunk into a dead sleep,
Deep sleep.
deep sleep.
Okay, so now we understood that they all greeted him, they all made them comfortable. Now they started the conversation. Now the conversation began. So the first conversation was, right, we are glad to see you, Oliver, right? Very, very glad. Who said this to Oliver?
Jew.
Jew, who was already there in the room, and he was cooking, right? You remember he was cooking, and he
Yes, ma'am.
was, in the diverting his attention. He was quite busy with the frying pan and with the clothes which was there. So instantly, when he saw Oliver, he welcomed him. Okay, and what did he told the Dodger to bring? The
Sausages.
sausages, and to bring the table tub near the fire, so that Oliver could also have. And when they sat together near the table, it was Oliver who was staring at the handkerchiefs. So Jew noticed that, and he said that, oh, aren't you looking at those handkerchiefs? And then he said, oh, there are many of such kinds. Okay, so you just looked at them, and they are just ready for the wash. Okay, and then he started laughing, saying ha ha ha, right? Now, have you understood this conversation between Oliver and Jew?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now let's see what happens. Okay, the latter part of the speech was hailed by a boisterous shout. Boisterous over here means noisy and full of energy. So after that, this is how they began the conversation, and after that, the story says that they, they were with full of energy. They were laughing. They were, noisy, and the energy could be seen through their shouts from all the hopeful pupils of the merry old gentleman. Now, in the midst of which they went to supper. All right. Now, when they started eating, Oliver ate whatever his share was given to him by the Jew. Okay. And the Jew then mixed him with a glass. After giving whatever he had cooked, he also gave him the glass of cocoa and hot water. And he told him to drink it. All right. Because, another gentleman also wanted the same tumbler. Fine. Oliver did as he was desired. He also wanted to have the drink, so he also had the drink. And what happened after that to Oliver?
He felt sleepy and he
Yes, yes,
sunk
yes,
into a deep sleep.
yes, yes. He felt sleepy. All right, and he was sleeping after that. Let's see what happens further. Excited? Is there any suspense? Oh,
Yes,
that's
Ma'am, the
it.
prose
Charles
is
Dickens.
over.
It was small. So, have you understood, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
It was the shortest one and the simplest one. Just scroll down, please. Okay. Shall we do the question answers, children? Are you all ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Answer the following questions based on your understanding of the extract from Oliver Twist. Okay, this is just a small extract from Oliver Twist. You have a book of complete book of this particular uh, topic, that is Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens. Okay, so let's see if we can give the answers. Make a list of words or phrases from the extract which helps in creating an atmosphere and a strange feeling for you as a reader, and also perhaps Oliver who is experiencing it. So we came across certain words and certain phrases in this particular extract, right? Isn't it? Now, you, for homework you all can do this. For homework you all can just make out, or you can just mark it in the text itself, which the words or the phrases which is giving a strange feeling, which is creating the atmosphere, right, and a strange feeling to the ones who are reading, that means to you. Clear? Will you do this for homework? Just mark it out. Do not write it. We will discuss tomorrow in class, and then you can write it down. Next is, what does the following asleep at the end of the extract tell us of Oliver's state? And he come to a safe place? Who are the people around him? What can he hope to receive here? Okay, so you all can at least mark the answers in the text itself. Then we'll discuss tomorrow. Okay, children. I hope everybody understood the prose, Oliver Twist.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.